The first time I went to my girlfriend's house, my future mother-in-law handed me $10,000 and told me to stay away from her daughter. Her bitter mockery stung. A poor, motherless boy like me could never be good enough for her Sarah. I was dreaming if I thought I could marry into their family. I felt the Cartier necklace in my pocket, originally intended as a gift for my future mother-in-law. I hesitated, wondering if I should ask my dad to fire Sarah's father tomorrow. 6 months ago, I had a huge fight with my dad when I refused the arranged date he set up for me. He cut off my allowance and punished me by making me work as a waiter at one of his restaurants to experience how difficult life can be. One day, as I was pouring tea for a customer, he started giving me a hard time for no reason. He complained the tea was too cold, then too hot, demanding I keep replacing it. Before I could roll my eyes, Sarah, who was dining at a nearby table, stood up to defend me. That's how I met Sarah. Later, because she was beautiful and completely my type, and we had similar values, she naturally became my girlfriend. We dated for 6 months, and things were going well. The tricky part was I never told her my true identity. She only knew my mom had passed away when I was young, and that my dad worked at the restaurant. She probably assumed my dad was a chef. Several times, she said my dad's cooking skills must be amazing and she'd love to try his food someday. I never told her about my education, but seeing me busy waiting tables at the restaurant, she guessed I probably hadn't gone to college. She was very considerate and never asked me much about it. She even comforted me, saying education doesn't matter that much and society doesn't only look at degrees these days. Some lies once started snowball from small lies to big ones, impossible to stop. Because I didn't have a car and the restaurant closed at 10 p.m. every night, rain or shine, she would drive over at 10:05 to pick me up after work. My coworkers always looked at me enviously. Sitting in the passenger seat, looking at her beautiful profile, I struggled internally before finally gathering the courage to ask, "Sarah, what would you do if you found out I lied to you someday?" With her hands on the steering wheel, Sarah replied seriously, "Babe, you know I hate deception more than anything. But I trust that you would never do that." Her words completely choked back what I was about to say. I wanted to tell her that I wasn't really a waiter. My dad wasn't a chef, but the CEO of a publicly traded restaurant company. I was in agony, unable to tell her the truth. If I did, would this relationship I'd carefully maintained come to an abrupt end? I'd had plenty of girls chase after me before, but I felt they weren't my type. To some extent, many of them only wanted to get close to me because of my family background. Now that I finally found a girl I liked, who wasn't with me because of my family's wealth, I really wanted to cherish her. Late at night, sitting in my 4,000 square foot house, I clutched a beer bottle and poured out my troubles to my friend who was experienced in relationships. My buddy took a sip of red wine and said calmly, "Jack, don't be stupid. Most girls hate being deceived. If she finds out you hid this from her, she'll think you were testing her, assuming she was a gold digger. It shows you don't trust her. She'll definitely get mad at you." Is that really true? I rolled my eyes at my seemingly unreliable friend. He stated with certainty, "Trust me." Hearing that, I panicked even more. My buddy went on giving me advice. "Besides, she's willing to be with you even though she thinks your family is poor. It shows she's not the type to look down on people for being poor. You can also use this chance to test her. If she really is after your money, you can break up with her. You won't lose anything." So I had no choice but to continue carefully concealing my background from my girlfriend, making sure not to let anything slip. Until today, when she said she wanted to bring me home to meet her parents. My heart skipped a beat. I felt so guilty. I was a complete liar in front of her. Sarah, actually, Before I could finish, she had already handed me 2 beautifully wrapped gift boxes from behind. "Jack, bring these when I take you to meet my mom tonight. I picked them out specially. My mom will definitely like them." "You really don't need to. I'll prepare gifts myself to meet your mom." "I'm not that clueless," I said helplessly, rubbing my forehead. "Jack, you work so hard at the restaurant. How could I let you spend money when I bring you to meet my parents?" Sarah said irritably. Then, worried she had hurt my pride, she added, "From now on, my money is your money. Don't be so particular about it." Looking at her serious expression, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That evening, I specially asked the manager for time off to get off work early. Sarah drove to pick me up and take me to her house. Seeing I was still wearing my usual simple t-shirt and black sweatpants, she frowned slightly. wanting to say something, but holding back. What's wrong? I asked after getting in the car. Nothing, she said as she drove. By the way, when you meet my mom later, just put up with whatever happens. My mom has a really bad temper. It wasn't until I got to her house that I understood what she meant. I had no idea just how bad her mother's temper really was. As soon as we arrived, I was carrying the 2 gift boxes and hadn't even stepped inside when her mom, Mrs. Thompson, pushed me back out. As expected from a poor family, "You have a stench about you," Mrs. Thompson said arrogantly with her arms crossed. What? I had just showered. I should only smell like my expensive body wash. Sarah sighed and quickly tried to stop her mom. Mom, what are you doing? Mrs. Thompson wrinkled her nose in disgust and snorted coldly. What do you see in this poor boy? Your Uncle John's son comes from a wealthy family and has a great education. How is he not better than this guy? If you marry Tommy, Uncle John said he'd not only give a bride price, but also gift us a house and a car. So that's what this was about. I was being looked down on for being poor? The guy could give Sarah a house and car? I wanted to say that my dad promised me that if I agreed to go on arranged dates, he'd give me a villa downtown and an entire company when I got married. Isn't the long-term value created by a company much better than just a house and car? I took a deep breath, trying my best to maintain a smile, and replied calmly, Mrs. Thompson, are you planning to sell Sarah in exchange for a house and car? Hearing that, Mrs. Thompson's face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot. You uncultured boy from a poor family. You have no manners at all. Such a petty mindset of the poor. I almost laughed out loud. If I really was a poor kid, I might have been infuriated by Mrs. Thompson's words and actions. But fortunately, I wasn't. My family was extremely wealthy with over a dozen companies waiting for me to inherit. As a result, her vigorous attempts at contempt had absolutely no effect on me. Jack, didn't you promise me you'd put up with it when we came? Sarah was also getting angry and could only try to mediate both sides. Mom, what are you saying? It's Jack's first time here. Mrs. Thompson looked me up and down with disdain. Jack, right? A poor guy like you, who doesn't even have a car, isn't worthy of entering our home. You know, Tommy drives a Rolls-Royce every time he comes. Oh, forget it. You probably don't even know what kind of luxury car that is. I'm wasting my breath. She took out 2 blue disposable shoe covers from the shoe cabinet and threw them at my feet. Look at the rags you're wearing. If it weren't for Sarah's sake, I wouldn't even let you in today. Put these on, don't wear our slippers. You might not care, but we're worried about catching some kind of foot fungus. I really wanted to tell her that everything I was wearing was from authentic domestic brands, not cheap knockoffs at all. And even if my clothes were inexpensive, the quality and comfort of domestic brands is extremely high. Although my dad owns over a dozen companies, he built it all from scratch through hard work. Since I was young, he taught me not to be wasteful, not to compare myself to others, to be humble, and to love our country. In fact, he'd rather spend large sums of money every year donating to help kids in mountain villages go to school than waste a penny buying a bunch of overhyped foreign luxury brands. But I held all these words back. After all, I like Mrs. Thompson's daughter. Not wanting to make things difficult for Sarah, I didn't clash head-on with Mrs. Thompson. In the past, I definitely would have criticized her money-grubbing behavior. I smiled and took out a bottle of waterless hand sanitizer from my canvas bag, voluntarily pouring some on my hands and washing them thoroughly. Mrs. Thompson, now that I've disinfected my hands too, are you satisfied? With the recent pandemic, the restaurant arranged for employees to regularly wash and disinfect their hands. For safety, I've always carried this waterless alcohol hand sanitizer with me. My roundabout tactic left Mrs. Thompson at a loss for words, as if she had punched cotton. She composed herself and let Sarah escort her to the living room. Putting on the shoe covers, I finally got a chance to look around the Thompson home. A standard 1,000 square foot 3-bedroom layout with a conventional Chinese style. Better than an average family, but far inferior to my home. Mrs. Thompson, sitting on the sofa, noticed me looking around. She probably thought I was like a country bumpkin seeing the big city for the first time. She couldn't help but mock me. Jack, you've probably never lived in such a nice house, right? This house is worth several $1,000,000 now. You're from out of state, living in a rented place. Is it even 300 square feet? Probably not even as big as our master bedroom. Glancing towards the master bedroom, it looked to be about 200 square feet. Not showing any reaction, I nodded in agreement. Yes, there's quite a big difference. Except the difference was that their home was far inferior to mine. Mrs. Thompson raised her proud chin and casually pointed to a painting on the wall. Do you know how much this painting is worth? This artist's works are extremely rare and valuable. It's only because of Sarah's father's connections that we were able to buy a piece by this artist. I looked over and saw it was signed by the famous local artist Bill White, dated March of this year. As it happened, this artist had previously collaborated with my dad's company and gifted our family several of his earlier works. He specialized in landscape paintings, which were completely different from this portrait on the wall in terms of both style and color scheme. Even as an amateur art enthusiast, I could tell at a glance that these two styles could not possibly be by the same person. This portrait was a fake. Seeing that I remained silent, Mrs. Thompson thought I was pretending to appreciate the art. Like a proud peacock, she said smugly, Sarah's father paid over $100,000 for this painting. I heard your dad is a chef, and you're just a waiter carrying plates. I bet you and your dad combined don't even make $100,000 in a year. I turned my gaze slowly towards Mrs. Thompson, a smile forming in my eyes. Mrs. Thompson, I've heard you've been a stay-at-home mom for many years, so you may not be very familiar with current salary levels across different industries in this city. I'd be happy to send you some information later to educate you. This city is one of the top-tier cities in the country, and the restaurant I work at is ranked in the top 3 on Yelp. The salary plus tips for waiters is comparable to white-collar office workers. Moreover, even an experienced chef with over 10 years of experience at an ordinary restaurant in this city would have an annual salary of over $100,000. The term stay-at-home mom instantly wiped the smile off Mrs. Thompson's face. Yes, no matter how much she tried to flaunt her wealth, the money wasn't earned by her, but by Sarah's father through his hard work. This had always been a sore spot for her, and she didn't like people bringing it up. Her face hardened, and she started complaining to Sarah before I could. Sarah, what kind of boyfriend did you find? The first time meeting your parents, he mocks your mom for being an uneducated stay-at-home mom. Sarah's face showed how difficult the situation was. She could only look to me pleadingly, her eyes begging me to put up with it. I had no choice but to excuse myself and leave. Sarah originally wanted to drive me back, but her mom forcefully stopped her, so she had to give up. I didn't insist on her driving me either. After all, every time she dropped me off at the group rental apartment building, I'd have to call another ride back to my own home. Leaving the neighborhood, I called my buddy to come pick me up. When he heard that Sarah's mom disliked me because she thought my family was poor, he was stunned. This was the first time he'd heard of someone looking down on my family for being poor. Looks like you were right not to tell Sarah about your family's real situation. Otherwise, how would you have seen what her mom is really like? I say forget about the Thompson family, my friend said pointedly. I opened the car window, letting the cold wind blow in. Resting my chin on my hand, I said helplessly, but Sarah truly cares about me. She's really so good to me. I can't just throw away a 6-month relationship because I don't get along with her mom, can I? Little did I know, I was still too naive and had no idea how vicious people could be. That night, Sarah called me and comforted me profusely, saying Mrs. Thompson just had a difficult personality, and I shouldn't take offense. Her dad was out of town on a business trip, but next time he'd be there to help smooth things over. I couldn't help but grumble that Mrs. Thompson wasn't just difficult, she was like an unreasonable Empress Dowager Cixi. Sarah deepened her voice to joke. Yes, I have to take care of the Empress Dowager on one side and consider the feelings of the Empress on the other. It's so hard being stuck in the middle as the Emperor. She made me laugh, and that was the end of it. But I had underestimated Mrs. Thompson. After just a few days of peace, she was ready to start causing trouble again. During my lunch break, I received a text from an unknown number. Jack, come meet me this afternoon. Don't tell Sarah, or you'll never be able to marry my daughter. The phone number looked familiar. I had glimpsed it in Sarah's contacts before. From the tone of the message, it wasn't hard to guess it was from Mrs. Thompson. If I really wanted to marry Sarah someday, I'd inevitably have to deal with Mrs. Thompson's existence. Since she had thrown down the gauntlet, I naturally couldn't back down. Without any hesitation, I immediately replied, Okay, Mrs. Thompson. I asked the manager for the afternoon off and went home to change clothes. To avoid putting Sarah in a difficult position, this time I specially picked out an Hermes jacket from my closet to wear to the meeting. When I arrived at the location, I found Mrs. Thompson sitting with a young man. He was wearing a new Louis Vuitton outfit and chatting animatedly with her over tea. Mrs. Thompson, you didn't tell me someone else would be here, I said calmly as I sat down across from them. Tommy isn't just anyone. In my heart, a well-mannered young man like Tommy is my real future son-in-law. Certain people trying to marry above their station are the outsiders, Mrs. Thompson said arrogantly. So that's what this was about. She was trying to put me down? Before I could speak, the supposedly well-mannered young man smiled and said, Auntie, this Mr. Jack is actually quite sensible. At least he knew to dress himself up this time. I wonder where he rented this designer outfit from. It must have cost him several days' wages, right? At this point, I turned my scrutinizing gaze to carefully examine Tommy's clothes, smiling faintly. Mr. Harris, I'm afraid you're the one experienced in renting designer clothes. That's why you automatically assume others do the same thing. You're just a chef's son. What lowly background do you have to speak nonsense in front of me? Tommy's handsome eyebrows instantly furrowed into a knot. Calling me a chef's son over and over, talking about high and low status. Is this really how a true gentleman with good manners would speak? I laughed coldly. Mr. Harris, your panicked look right now really seems like someone who's done something guilty and got caught red-handed. Don't tell me I actually guessed right. Your clothes really are rented. Tommy's jaw clenched in anger as he started spewing a string of vulgar insults. Taking advantage of the moment, I quickly texted my friend. Do you think a real rich kid would wear rented designer clothes? My friend quickly replied, no way. I sent my friend Tommy's name, asking him to check if any of his friends who do high-end replicas or designer rentals recognize the name. Filtering out Tommy's crude language, I continued needling him. This is a restaurant. There are plenty of chefs in the kitchen. Mr. Harris, since you look down on chefs so much, you'd better not enter restaurants anymore. You probably shouldn't eat any food made by chefs either. If they knew how much you despise them, they might accidentally poison you. Tommy angrily grabbed Mrs. Thompson's wrist. Annie, look at him. He doesn't know when to stop talking. He's definitely not someone who knows his place. How could Sarah marry him? He's not worthy. Whether I'm worthy or not isn't for you to decide. You think you're worthy of Sarah, but does Sarah actually like you? I retorted. I used to be the best debater in college. When it came to verbal sparring, he was no match for me. Enough of this useless chatter. Let's get to the point. Jack, I called you here because I have something important to discuss, Mrs. Thompson waved her hand, interrupting my war of words with Tommy. Yes, please go ahead, Mrs. Thompson. Out of respect for her status as Sarah's mother, I forced myself to respond politely. The next second, I watched her take out a stack of cash from her purse and push it across the table towards me. Here's $10,000. It should cover 2 months of your wages. Leave my daughter. Earlier, when I saw her confidently reaching into her purse, I thought she was going to pull out at least $100,000 or $200,000. The result was shocking. She thought she could buy off my feelings with a mere $10,000? Tommy chimed in from the side. You should be satisfied with $10,000. Break up with Sarah tonight? I originally said $5,000 was enough, but Annie is too generous and kind-hearted. She rounded it up to $10,000 for you. What? Mrs. Thompson, so in your heart, your daughter is only worth a measly $10,000? With $10,000, you think you can buy out your daughter's feelings? Sarah would be heartbroken if she knew. I kindly reminded her. Mrs. Thompson's face changed, thinking I was being greedy. A poor boy like you who lost his mother is nowhere near good enough for my Sarah. You're dreaming if you think you can marry into our family. I'm already being too generous giving you this $10,000. Hearing that, I abruptly stood up, no longer maintaining a polite tone. Mrs. Thompson, I've been respecting you as Sarah's mother by calling you Mrs. Thompson, but your words have really gone too far. If you don't act like an elder, I don't mind teaching a disrespectful elder a lesson. The words lost his mother were incredibly vicious to someone like me who had lost my mom as a child. Was it my fault that I grew up without a mother? Who wouldn't want to have their mother by their side growing up? She was rubbing salt in my wounds. Jack, how dare you speak to Annie like that? Be careful, or I'll tell Sarah you bullied her mom. Tommy was the first to react, warning me with a wary look. There are security cameras in the restaurant, and as it happens, I brought a voice recorder with me today. Feel free to tell Sarah whatever you want. I'd also like her to know how the supposedly well-mannered gentleman curses when he loses his temper. I replied coolly. The previously aggressive Tommy instantly deflated. Since we clearly don't see eye to eye, there's no point in continuing this conversation. With that, I stood up to leave. Exiting the restaurant, I felt the blue gift box in my pocket containing a Cartier necklace. Mrs. Thompson loved designer brands so much, I had specially bought it from the boutique at great expense to try to smooth things over. But now, I felt she didn't deserve it. Just then, my phone rang. It was my friend. Jack, you guessed right. My friend who does high-end replicas said that Tommy Harris is her VIP client. He buys dozens of fake designer pieces from her every year and always tries to haggle the price down. Not only that, my friend who does designer rentals knows him too. He recently rented a new Louis Vuitton set from my friend. A flood of photos suddenly popped up in my WeChat. My friend had sent me screenshots of Tommy's payments and chat records for buying fakes and renting designer clothes. I smirked. So this Tommy actually had no money and was just pretending to be rich? After saving all the photos and chat records on my phone, I told my friend everything that had happened at the restaurant. My friend immediately got angry, yelling through the phone, "Don't hold back anymore. Let your dad fire Sarah's dad tomorrow. See if that misses. Thompson can still act so arrogant then." I had only found out a few days ago that Sarah's dad was actually an executive at one of my dad's companies, with quite a high salary. But digging a little deeper, I had discovered some other things. There's no rush on that. If I really did that, my relationship with Sarah would be over. No matter how unreasonable her mom is, it's not time for that yet, I insisted. After hanging up, I changed back into my waiter uniform and returned to the restaurant to continue working. That evening, Sarah came to pick me up as usual. I was a bit surprised. "I thought you wouldn't come today? Your mom didn't say anything to you." Sarah stared at me, a barely noticeable flicker of evasion in her eyes. In the end, she shook her head and smiled. "No. Did something happen between you and my mom that you're hiding from me?" Since she didn't bring it up, I saw no need to badmouth her mother in front of her. So, I didn't mention it either. Little did I know, after a month of peace, Mrs. Thompson and Tommy were brewing up another big move. I received an invitation on my phone from Mrs. Thompson to attend Sarah's birthday party next weekend. It was going to be a banquet at an upscale restaurant in the city, and she had invited Sarah's college classmates and many friends. Sarah was having a big birthday party, and I, her boyfriend, knew nothing about it. That day when Sarah came to pick me up, I casually mentioned, "It's your birthday next week, right? How do you want to celebrate?" "It's just a small birthday. I wasn't planning anything special. I have something that evening, but let's have lunch together to celebrate." "Okay," Sarah said as she drove. I couldn't see her expression. I said, "Oh," in response. So she was throwing a birthday party, but didn't plan on telling me her boyfriend? I didn't ask any more questions. I'd wait and see what this birthday party was really about. How should I put it? I was actually starting to look forward to this trap they were setting. That week, Tommy seemed worried I wouldn't attend the party. He kept texting me, trying to provoke me. Who knows where he got my phone number from? "Jack, you're not too scared to come to the birthday party this weekend, are you?" I guess an ugly duckling will always be an ugly duckling, unable to fit in with high society. At the birthday party, Annie is going to tell all of Sarah's friends that I'm her real boyfriend. Seeing that I wasn't responding, he persisted. "Oh, right. Don't you have to work at the restaurant on weekends? Just take the day off to come. I'll reimburse you for a day's wages and your transportation costs." As it happened, I also had a big surprise in store for him. I quickly typed out a message telling him to expect me on the weekend. Getting my confirmation, he finally shut up. At noon during my lunch break, I called my friend. "You've arranged everything for me, right? After all, they're holding the birthday party at my dad's hotel. There are some things I can't handle directly." "Don't worry, I've got it all under control," my friend assured me confidently. I carefully reminded him once more. "Also, when I arrive, make sure the staff doesn't call me young master." All right, you little prince. I guarantee your cover won't be blown," he promised. The day of the birthday party arrived. At lunch with Sarah, I couldn't help asking her one more time, "It's your 25th birthday today. Isn't your mom throwing you a big party?" She hesitated for a moment, her eyes shifting. "No." The lunch ended quickly. That evening, as I took the bus to the hotel for the party, I received a text from Sarah. "Babe, I'm so sorry, but something important came up, and I can't be with you tonight. But I still love you." I didn't reply. After a 20-minute bus ride, I arrived at the hotel. From a distance, I saw Tommy wearing head-to-toe Hermes, greeting me. "Didn't I tell you to take a taxi?" I said I'd reimburse you. "Look at you, too poor to even afford a cab." As soon as he spoke, the group of friends standing next to him burst out laughing behind their hands. "Yeah, I'm certainly not like some people who like to put on airs they can't afford," I retorted. I still had plenty of evidence on my phone of him buying fakes and renting designer clothes. Ignoring them, I walked into the hotel wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans. Mrs. Thompson and Sarah were inside greeting guests. One guest joked, "We're drinking to celebrate a birthday this time. Will we be drinking at a wedding next?" Mrs. Thompson beamed. "I hope so. My future son-in-law is here today. His name is Tommy Harris. You'll have to give me your opinion of him later." Hearing that, I looked at Sarah's reaction. She just frowned slightly, not denying Tommy's status. So she was going along with it? Tommy was really her future groom? She knew her mom was going to formally introduce her boyfriend tonight. So she hid the birthday party from me to avoid a conflict between me and her mom. Just then, Tommy walked over with his group of friends. "Annie, mister, Jack is here." My gaze met Sarah's. She was clearly surprised by my appearance and immediately came over. "Jack, why are you here? So you didn't want me to show up and ruin your plans? Or is my status as a waiter not good enough to offer you birthday wishes?" I sneered. "Jack, that's not what I meant. You're my real boyfriend." Sarah forcefully took my hand and led me into the banquet hall, bringing me in front of everyone. In front of all the guests, she picked up a microphone and spoke seriously. "Let me introduce everyone. This gentleman next to me is Jack. He's my official boyfriend." It wasn't the scene I had imagined, where she would go along with Mrs. Thompson and acknowledge Tommy as her boyfriend. She publicly acknowledged me as her boyfriend in front of everyone. My face turned red, and I felt a surge of happiness in my heart. "Sarah, you say he's your boyfriend, but is he worthy? Do you all know? He's just a waiter at a restaurant, serving tea and carrying plates for people every day. He didn't even go to college. And his dad is just a lowly chef," Tommy declared arrogantly, standing in the middle of the crowd with a wine glass. The crowd burst into discussion, countless eyes suddenly fixed on Sarah and me, some appraising, some disdainful, some surprised. Sarah gripped my hand even tighter and said firmly, "No matter what his background is, I only recognize Jack as my boyfriend." Feeling the warm strength of her palm, I got a little choked up. I guess her sappy words had made my eyes water. "He's just a worthless high school graduate. What do you like about him? You and I both went to top universities. Piano, violin, foreign languages. We excel at everything. What can he do? Once the novelty wears off, you'll have nothing in common," Tommy said viciously. I didn't feel the slightest embarrassment at having my background exposed. Instead, I looked calmly at Tommy and said, "All right then, open your eyes and watch carefully what I can do." Near the stage, several French violinists were playing enthusiastically. I walked over to them confidently and spoke to them in fluent, authentic French, asking to borrow a violin for a moment. Turning back, I smirked at Tommy's face, which was alternating between red and white with anger. Under everyone's watchful gaze, I perfectly performed the famous piece, Zigeunerweisen, on the violin. When I finished, even the French violinists couldn't help but applaud for me. Caught up in the moment after hearing the performance, the party guests also started applauding. At this point, Mrs. Thompson was displeased. She grabbed another microphone and declared on the spot, "This man is a waiter. Playing music is just a trivial skill for him. I'm saying this here and now. I will never let this waiter marry my Sarah." Everyone was in an uproar, discussing amongst themselves again. With Tommy, I could retort however I wanted without holding back. But when it came to Sarah's mother, I couldn't be so disrespectful to an elder in front of everyone. I gratefully returned the violin to the French musicians and nodded to Mrs. Thompson. "Since you don't welcome me, Mrs. Thompson, I'll take my leave. I'm sorry, everyone. I didn't mean to ruin Sarah's birthday. Please enjoy the rest of the party." With that, I walked gracefully towards the exit. Leaving the hotel, I realized I still owed Sarah a happy birthday after being interrupted by Mrs. Thompson, and I hadn't gotten to give Tommy my big surprise yet. I immediately turned around to go back in. Before I could enter, I ran into Sarah urgently pulling Mrs. Thompson to a secluded corner. "Mom, do you know you almost ruined my grand plan?" Sarah yelled angrily at Mrs. Thompson. Sarah, what are you talking about? You'd choose that man over your own mother? You've known Tommy since childhood. Didn't you used to like him? How can you just throw that away? Mrs. Thompson pleaded. Sarah used to like Tommy? Eavesdropping from around the corner, I felt a chill run down my spine. What kind of taste did she have? However, I never expected Sarah's next words would hit me like a bolt of lightning. Mom, you don't understand the situation at all. Jack's family background is hundreds of times better than Tommy's. They're not even in the same league. You have no idea how hard it's been maintaining this relationship with him for 6 months. How exhausting it's been. Do you know how miserable I've felt having to face someone I don't even like every day? You almost ruined everything just now because of your meddling. Jack's family is hundreds of times better than Tommy's. How hard it's been maintaining this relationship with him for 6 months. How exhausting it's been. Do you know how miserable I've felt having to face someone I don't even like every day? Every word stabbed at my heart. I stood rooted to the spot, hardly able to believe my ears. Mrs. Thompson was equally stunned, unable to believe it. What? His family is very wealthy? He doesn't look like it at all. Are you sure? Honey, why didn't you tell me earlier? It's absolutely true. I heard the restaurant manager call him young master with my own ears. I didn't tell you before because I was afraid you'd give it away and he'd find out. I can't believe how clueless you are, Mom. You almost ruined everything for me. From now on, you'd better be nice to Jack. Otherwise, you can forget about your dream of being a rich young master's mother-in-law. Hearing this, I had no desire to eavesdrop any further. I walked out from behind the corner and stood under the giant crystal chandelier, looking coldly at Sarah. Sarah, you've really done right by me, haven't you? Is this what your prestigious university taught you? How to be a gold digger and marry into a rich family? The color drained from Sarah's face. For the first time, I saw panic in her beautiful features. Jack, it's not what you think. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. I was furious. Passing through the banquet hall, I gave Sarah one last icy glare before looking away and walking step by step back to the stage. In front of all the guests, I picked up the microphone. I'm sorry, but it seems today is destined to disappoint everyone. For those who enjoy drama, don't miss the show that's about to unfold. The crowd looked on eagerly, ready for some juicy gossip. I signaled to a staff member to connect my phone to the projector. The staff quickly complied. My friend hadn't let me down. He'd prepared everything I'd asked for. The screen soon displayed a series of screenshots showing Tommy's transactions for buying fake goods and renting designer clothes, as well as chat logs of him haggling with sellers over counterfeit items. Tommy, I heard you have a lot of designer clothes? Are there more fakes or rentals? I said, scrolling through the chat logs on my phone while staring intently at Tommy standing in the crowd. Seeing the irrefutable screenshots, Tommy turned pale with shock. He screamed, "You fraud! You're slandering me. Those chat logs are all fake. It wasn't me at all. You photoshopped those images." I chuckled softly. Just a friendly reminder. The rental period for your Hermes outfit today ends at 10 p.m. It's already 8 p.m. now, so don't be late returning it. In 5 minutes, the rental shop will call to remind you about the time. Want to bet? Shall we all wait and see if we hear your phone ring? You! Tommy was so angry he could barely speak. He covered his face, looking like he wanted to find a hole to crawl into. 4 minutes left. Shall we all wait together? I smiled mischievously. Tommy clenched his fists, looking around frantically as everyone stared at him with strange expressions. He couldn't take it anymore and ran out clutching his phone, like a fleeing rat. Watching him flee in panic, I shrugged nonchalantly. Actually, the rental shop calling him in a few minutes was just my bluff. I didn't expect him to crack so easily. But all those chat logs up there are 100% real. He's just a rich kid who's been carefully packaged. The crowd wore satisfied expressions, clearly enjoying the drama. My gaze then landed on Mrs. Thompson in the audience. Mrs. Thompson, you're next. Mrs. Thompson's face instantly went white. Jack, what are you going to do? I never bought any fakes. Oh, really? Are you so sure about that? I said casually. That painting by the famous local artist Bill White that you've been bragging about to friends and family is actually a complete forgery. No, that's impossible. You're lying. Mrs. Thompson stammered nervously. Then let's video call the artist himself, right now, in front of everyone, and have him authenticate it, I said, moving to dial the number. You're trying to bluff me like you did with Tommy? I'm not so easily fooled. Even if your family is wealthy, there's no way you actually know Bill White. Don't be ridiculous. Mrs. Thompson scoffed coldly. Only Sarah, standing beside her, remained tight-lipped with a tense expression. I made the video call, which connected almost instantly. I signaled the staff to link my phone to the projector again. The giant screen soon displayed the unmistakable face of the renowned local artist Bill White. "What's up, kid? Need something from me?" he asked casually. The crowd gasped audibly. Someone in the audience exclaimed, That really is Bill White. I saw him from afar once at an international art exhibition." "It's so noisy on your end. What's going on?" Bill asked again. "Sorry to bother you, Uncle Bill. I just wanted to ask if you've created any new works this year. You still owe me 2 paintings, remember?" I said, "I've been lazy this year and haven't painted anything yet. Those few paintings I wanted to give you before, you returned them all to me, remember?" he replied. It's worth noting that a single painting by this artist was priceless. I had simply returned a few to him because I didn't like landscape paintings. "So you definitely didn't paint any portraits in March of this year, right?" I asked pointedly. "Absolutely not. I only do landscapes. Not just this March. I've never painted portraits," Bill stated firmly. Mrs. Thompson's face crumpled as she collapsed into a chair. "All right, thanks, Uncle Bill. We'll catch up another time," I said, hanging up. Sarah's brows were tightly knitted. "Jack, that's enough." This was merely payback for Mrs. Thompson's cruel words about me being motherless earlier. It was nothing compared to how she had mocked and belittled me in front of everyone before. As for Sarah, I hadn't even begun to settle accounts for how she'd manipulated my feelings. Just then, Sarah's father, Mr. Thompson, stormed in with a group of security guards. He pointed at me on stage and said contemptuously, "Jack, you're not welcome here. Security, throw this man out. If he won't leave willingly, drag him out." The security guards were about to step forward when the staff quickly stopped them. "If you want to keep your jobs, stay where you are." I hadn't originally planned to go after Mr. Thompson, since we'd barely interacted before. But now he was handing me a knife and offering himself up. I couldn't be polite any longer. "Sarah, we're breaking up as of today. Since you're no longer my girlfriend, I don't need to keep covering up your father's dirty deeds anymore." Sarah went pale. "What about my father?" I turned to Mr. Thompson in the crowd. "Mr. Thompson, tomorrow you'll officially receive a termination notice from the company. As for the company funds you embezzled, the legal department will be pursuing full repayment. Earlier, my dad had discovered that Mr. Thompson had embezzled a huge sum during procurement. If I hadn't desperately begged my dad to keep it under wraps for now, Mr. Thompson would have been fired long ago." "What are you talking about? You're slandering me. I'm calling the police and suing you for defamation." Mr. Thompson shouted, flushed with anger. "Do you want me to publicly display the evidence and amounts of your embezzlement?" I asked, waving my phone with the incriminating files. Mr. Thompson was stunned into silence, not daring to say another word. He certainly didn't want such shameful matters made public. Mrs. Thompson saw Mr. Thompson's fearful reaction and nearly fainted, clutching her chest. She sat ungracefully on the floor, wailing, "Honey, you can't get fired. We still have over $1 million in mortgage payments. This can't be real. This must be a nightmare." "Jack, you've gone too far." Sarah gritted her teeth in anger. "Yes, I've gone too far. But have I gone as far as you?" I laughed lightly. "And you don't let me catch you doing anything shady. Otherwise, you'll be the next one I expose." Putting down the microphone and having the staff turn off the projector, I walked gracefully off the stage and towards the exit. Before I could leave the hall, a familiar face in the crowd caught my eye. I trembled with fury, my fists clenched tightly. It was the customer who had given me such a hard time at the restaurant half a year ago. So he and Sarah were acquainted? Even that first meeting had been Sarah's setup to ensnare me? She hadn't just deceived my feelings. She had woven an entire trap to manipulate me. My chest felt like it had been violently stabbed. There was no blood, but it hurt so badly. I don't know how I made it out of the banquet hall. I called my friend in a daze, asking him to come pick me up. After that day, I fell gravely ill with a 104 degrees Fahrenheit fever that wouldn't break. I was bedridden for days. Thankfully, my friend stayed by my side. Lying in bed, I couldn't control my tears and just kept crying. I had been serious about this relationship. In the end, it had truly wounded me. Jack, just wait. I'll go teach that horrible woman a lesson, my friend said angrily, seeing my haggard state. But I waved him off. Don't rush. I'll get my own revenge. A month later, when I had fully recovered, I took the opportunity to ask my dad to parachute me into an executive position at one of his old friends' companies. I had graduated from a top university and had previously interned at several of my dad's companies. I had the ability to take on a high-level role. The reason I chose this particular company was because Sarah worked there as a senior advertising designer. Now I was her boss. That day, when Sarah saw that I had become her new superior, her expression froze in shock. I really wished I could have taken a picture of her face to use as a meme. It would have made me laugh for years. After HR introduced me to everyone, she followed me all the way to my private office. Designer Thompson, do you need something? I asked, raising an eyebrow as I sat in the executive chair. Jack, please forgive me. You blocked me, and I've been thinking about you and trying to find you this whole month. How can you just throw away our 6 months together and break up so easily? She pleaded with a choked sob in her voice. Designer Thompson, the company pays each dollar of salary expecting you to work hard here, not to discuss relationships or personal matters. Understand? I said coldly, cutting off all her hopes of reconciliation. As for any personal matters between us, that possibility no longer exists. Sarah's face hardened, as if seeing me for the first time. Jack, I may have deceived you, but didn't you lie to me too? You pretended to be poor the whole time, making a fool of me. I was just playing along with your act. If I had felt heartbroken about Sarah before, hearing her cruel and callous words now made me completely give up on her. Yes, we were both liars. But what about when you set someone up to hassle me and scheme to trap me in a relationship with you? How do you account for that? I said, enough. Get out. My assistant will give you a project later. If you have what it takes, use your successful work to prove me wrong. I dismissed her. A few days later, she submitted a design proposal to me. Flipping through a few pages, I marveled at how blind I must have been before. How could I have fallen for such an untalented woman? I had deliberately given her a difficult project to challenge her, but her work was even worse than I had imagined. The entire proposal was plagiarized from foreign advertising designs, carelessly cobbled together. It only took me 10 minutes to put together a comparison of her text and visuals with several foreign ads, showing how large sections were identical. I called a meeting with Sarah's entire design team and projected this comparison on the screen. Sarah, is this the extent of your abilities? Blatant plagiarism that any rookie could spot? Is this what you learned at your prestigious university? I exposed her in front of everyone without mercy. Several colleagues on Sarah's team who had previously been intimidated by her educational background couldn't help piling on. Wow, Sarah, I didn't know you were that kind of person. While we're working hard on original content, you've been diligently copying others. TSK, you're a disgrace to our design team. I used to admire how outstanding her designs were. Turns out they were all stolen. I overestimated her. Hearing everyone's sarcastic comments, Sarah abruptly stood up, flushed with anger and humiliation. Jack, you're clearly taking personal revenge by trying to target me. I sat calmly at the head of the table, looking at her impassively. Even if I wanted to target you, I'd need evidence and grounds to do so. If you hadn't plagiarized so blatantly, what would I use against you? Fine, then I quit right now. Is that good enough? Sarah ripped off her employee badge and threw it on the conference table dramatically. You're welcome to quit, of course, but your annual salary is so high because you signed an exclusive 10-year contract with the company. I kindly suggest you review the contract and see if you can afford the penalty for breach of contract, I said. I paused before twisting the knife further. And this surely isn't your first time plagiarizing, right? The company will thoroughly investigate all your previous design proposals. If any issues are found, can you pay for the damages and compensation you've cost the company? Sarah was left speechless, collapsing back into her chair. All right, we've wasted enough time. Meeting adjourned, I said, picking up my folder and brushing past Sarah as I left. Sarah didn't quit, and I continued making her life difficult as her boss for a month before finally growing bored of the game. I formally submitted my resignation and left the company. Sometimes, letting go of others is also a way of freeing yourself. After I left, I heard Sarah got into a fight with a female coworker, ended up in the hospital, and used that as an excuse to leave the company. She was so desperate to quit that she was willing to be hospitalized. Clearly, she was terrified I would come after her again. After fully moving on from this failed relationship, I resumed my carefree life as a rich young master, though I still refused the blind dates my dad tried to set up. One day, my friend came over carrying a stack of resumes. "Jack, I heard that Sarah and her family couldn't pay their mortgage, so their house was auctioned off by the bank. Now they've all moved back to their hometown in disgrace. Her mom has gone a bit crazy, telling everyone they meet that they're nobles who came from the big city. It's hilarious," my friend gossiped, filling me in on Sarah's aftermath. I laughed it off. I no longer cared about their family's fate. Whether they lived or died was irrelevant to me. So I changed the subject. "Why are you bringing all these resumes to my house?" "I'm worried sick about your lifelong happiness. I specially opened an entertainment company and collected all these resumes. They're all top-tier beauties. Take a look, and if you like any of them, I'll hire her right away and set you two up," he explained enthusiastically. Damn, so this was his plan all along. Is that the kind of person I am? I glared at my friend and snatched the resumes. "Let me see those."